In this, the fourth and last of our videos about St Catharine's College, there's just a few particular thoughts that we'd like you to think about as you're thinking of applying to university and hopefully thinking about applying to St Catharine's. We at St Catharine's are very keen to widen participation in higher education. There's really two reasons for this. The first is that it's the fair thing to do. The second is that we want to be able to recruit our academically able candidates from as wide a pool as possible. How do we do this during the applications process? Well, first of all, if you apply to us, we will be given contextual information about your school, how it's performed in GCSEs and A-levels in recent years, for example, how the participation of people from your local area based on your home postcode in higher education. And also increasingly we're getting information about individuals as well, whether you've been eligible for free school meals or whether you've been in care before applying. One thing that is related to the individual is the extenuating circumstances scheme, which runs across Cambridge University, and we do encourage you to have a look at the website for this. This is essentially for people who feel that their education has been disadvantaged or interrupted in some way. If you do think this is the case, you can tick the box on the supplementary application questionnaire and your school will be asked to write a form about how you've been disadvantaged. We do encourage you to make use of this scheme because if you don't tell us of any problems you've had, we'll just assume that there haven't been any, and we do take this into account when we're considering applications. Finance is important, we know. For most of our applicants, going to university is the largest financial commitment they've ever made in their lives. Perhaps surprisingly, Cambridge is actually a relatively inexpensive university to go to for various reasons. The first of these is that colleges don't make huge amounts of profit out of rent. They usually just charge the amount of money it costs to keep the accommodation stock running. So obviously look at our rents and compare them with other universities. At St Catharine's you don't pay rent in the vacations, and of course this is quite a big saving. And also that's even better because the vacations are relatively long. Cambridge teaching terms are only 8 weeks in length, and so our accommodation contracts are normally just 9 or 10 weeks in length. So this obviously will leave you quite a lot of time when you're not paying rent, but also when you can take up paid work should you want to. Once you're a Cambridge student, you may need a bike, but other than that, your travel costs will be zero. You can walk and cycle everywhere. Cambridge is a very compact city. Food, eating in the Cambridge collegiate system is relatively inexpensive. Most people do a mixture of self-catering in the small kitchens on their staircase or landing. They mix that with informal cafeteria-style dining in the college hall. Of course, occasionally people do the whole Hogwarts and put on a gown and have formal dinners as well, but obviously these are much less common. Like any other university with a large city around it and embedded and mixed in with it, many of the things in the local city are tailored towards the student budget, and that means things like restaurants and clubs and whatever. Of course, that will be true of several other UK cities as well. Very importantly, there are many extra sources of funding if you become a student at Cambridge, ranging from the very large and very organised Cambridge Bursary Scheme, which is effectively just a grant which you're given. You don't have to pay that back, it's based on your household income. St Catharine's is usually able to supplement this with its own entrance bursaries as well. And then once you're here, we have sort of short-term ad hoc hardship bursary funding for people who get into financial problems. But also we have lots of sources of funding for fun things, like we give undergraduate travel grants every year and grants for sport and music as well. Our aim in general ties in with the university's wider aim that we never want to lose UK students for financial reasons, and we never have. We've been able to keep to that aspiration in recent years. Many people ask us about who we make our offers to and where our students come from, and it's a bit of a mixture. About 10 to 15% of our students at the moment come from outside the EU. About 10 to 15% come from EU countries, and then of our UK applicants, roughly 3/4 apply to us from state schools, and roughly 3/4 of our students UK students are from state schools. So the school type that you apply from doesn't seem to make any difference to your chances of getting in. Obviously, with any selective university like Cambridge, please do be aware that entry is competitive. You are in competitive with lots of very strong students, and so unfortunately every year we do have to unfortunately turn down the application of some very strong applicants. We do know that everybody's been disadvantaged by coronavirus this year. You're teaching at school, probably some exams at school have been affected, and next year this will probably roll into your teaching next year, and also possibly even exams next year. Just be aware that we are aware of this and we will take it into account during the application process. In particular, we're worried that existing disparities in educational opportunity will have been made worse by the coronavirus situation. In all of this though, be positive. Please don't underestimate your abilities. Many of the students who come to us and are successful did not expect to get a place. So just bear in mind, you get 5 choices on your UCAS form. We are just one of them. So just give us a go and see how you get on. Another thing, as I'd like to say, is don't feel that applying to Cambridge has really sort of committed you to anything. It's just another university. Don't feel there's all this extra pressure on you just because you've applied to Cambridge. You're very lucky. If you're from the UK, you live in a country with a very large number of excellent universities, and if you apply to us and get a place, then obviously we're very pleased about that. If you apply to us and unfortunately you're unsuccessful, then chances are you'll end up at one of the other very good universities in the UK.